Do you suffer from anxiety, from depression, maybe even chronic pain? Well, listen up. Truth Be Told is going to tell you about a breakthrough program built on over 100 years of therapies used in America's returning veterans to help you successfully overcome PTSD, anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. The secret proven in study after study. Music therapy. The effects of music are nothing short of amazing. From strokes to PTSD, music has been shown to improve the quality of life. Now, one of the latest music therapy programs being used in America's veteran hospitals can be yours to experience for free at home and to help your own anxiety attacks, pain, and depression. Or just relax after a hard day. It's called Whole Tones. It takes music therapy to a new level. This revolutionary program makes use of specifically designed frequencies that have been shown to stimulate your body's natural healing power down to a cellular level. If it works for battle-scarred vets, can it work for you? Well, experience it for yourself for free at sweetwholetones.com. Like Tony Sweet, that's S-W-E-E-T. Go to sweetwholetones.com. Now enjoy the show.
What's your thoughts on government cover-ups or covert societies attempting to control humanity? Do you believe in ancient astronauts, intergalactic communication, or extraterrestrial visitations? Ever had an experience with disembodied spirits or the paranormal universe? Are these subjects fact or fiction? Each week, Tony and Eddie explore these unbelievable realities and beyond. Exclusively on Truth Be Told.
Hello and welcome to Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie. I'm your host, Tony Sweet. And with me now is Walt Lusk, sitting in for Eddie Connor. Miracles come in many different forms, and a miracle can be a moment when you choose to thrive, or when we realize the power to be prosperous and spiritual at the same time is within us. That's right, Emmanuel Dagher is young, but he also is wise beyond his years. Emmanuel is a transformational specialist, holistic health practitioner, speaker, and author of the book, Easy Breezy Miracles. Emmanuel is considered a new thought leader and gifted humanitarian who is devoted to assisting people into moving into a positive transformation while being of service to humankind. And lucky for us, Emmanuel is sharing his book, Easy Breezy Prosperity, 5 Foundations for a More Joyful, Abundant Life, that was released just a few days ago and is doing very well and flying off the bookshelves. In these trying and sometimes depressing times, it is great meeting someone like Emmanuel who is working hard to make this a better world through positive transformation. So please welcome author and transformational specialist, Emmanuel Dagher. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for being here, and congratulations on your book, Easy Breezy Prosperity, going off the shelves like hotcakes. That is amazing.
Thank you so much. It's been hard work, but it's paying off, and I'm so grateful.
Well, again, I'm Tony Sweet, and this is Walt Lusk here.
Hey.
And we're always one of those people. We have to know everything. We have to know how you got started in this industry, and especially your first time on the show. So before we talk about the books, let's go back to that childhood, because you look like you're like 12, but I know you're not. But how did you get into this life of abundance kind of guru? I want to know this.
Yeah, I mean, enough about us. Tell us about you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for having me here today, and I'm just so grateful to your listeners as well. So I actually, just like everyone has a story, everyone's been through something. My story starts in Lebanon. I actually grew up in the civil war of Lebanon back in the 80s and early 90s. And, I saw things, I experienced things that actually nobody should ever experience. We had no running water for days, no food.
Wow.
I mean, it's really, we're seeing a lot of that happening again right now over there. So I remember, seeing my surroundings, but there was something inside. I don't know, you can call it wishful thinking, you can call it the childlike wonder thing, but I just knew that that's not where my life was going to end. I knew that something greater was going to emerge. And the only thing that I can sort of really capture it in is that my mom and I lived in a convent for 7 years. The war was the backdrop. We had sparse everything,
The
and we
war,
weren't sure if we were going to make it to the
which,
next day.
which
But
war?
I, yes, but the one thing I can really capture it in is the love that we had for each other. And I feel like that love really was so healing and nurturing, and it actually was the light that helped us get out of that and into more of a prosperous reality, which is what I'm here doing today.
Is
Wow. And you obviously have a phenomenal attitude of gratitude, which I know goes very far.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's not something that came very easily or
mm,
right away, because when you see things like that, it's very challenging. But I realized that, a lot of the anger and the frustration wasn't serving me. It
mhm.
actually was, later when I moved to the States, we discovered as a teen that I had scoliosis. My
Oh, okay.
back was actually starting to get a 29 and a half degree
Wow, that's
curve.
That's
huge.
tough.
And I really do believe everything is energy.
Hmm.
So I understand now, looking back, that that was just me sort of holding on to a lot of the pain and a lot of the trauma that I was going through. So we went to several doctors, and they basically said, you're going to have to get surgery. You're going to have to put a metal rod in your spine. It's going to be like you have arthritis for the rest of your life. You're not going to be able to play sports, da da da, da whatever. So we knew that there was a different way. So I started looking into alternative methods, Eastern methods and philosophies, and I was able to heal it. And that has been my reference point. That was my awakening to get to wanting to help people, because I know that if I can heal, they can heal too.
So, many people, like, even when I was a kid, I was like 10 years old. And I mean, I grew up in the Midwest and I had, a great family, but we had our own issues. But I always knew there was something greater for me to do, where many children or many just adults, people, human beings don't always feel that. When you were growing up in Lebanon and going through that, did you ever feel that you had a greater purpose?
It's so funny. My mom says that at 3 years old, I used to say, love is all there is, and we all come from love. And
Mm.
I probably didn't really realize what I was saying, but I remember the president had just been assassinated,
Oh,
and my mom was in my arms crying because he was Christian, and it was like this big
right.
deal. And then I remember at 3 years old, my mom in my arms, and me just saying, there, love is all there is, everything's
Oh,
going to be
wow.
fine. And she was just like, who is
I was
this?
like,
What is
who's
this? So
this?
on
Yeah.
some level, I probably did.
Well, yeah, that must have been a huge disconnect. I mean, you're listening to the president who's just been assassinated, and your mom's talking about love.
Yeah. Well, I was
No,
talking
he
about
was
love.
talking about love.
Oh, you were okay. Yeah. Well,
And she
yeah,
was hysterical crying because,
yeah.
so I was like, the role was reversed in that moment.
Oh, I
Wow.
see. Excuse
Wow.
me.
Wow. So when you moved to the States, how old are you when you moved here?
10 years old.
10 years old. So when was that pivotal moment? And was there anything going on in your life to still kind of guide you in of the direction to become a kind of a leader of transformational positivity, in everybody's lives instead of just your own? How did you become more of a leader in this industry?
When we first, so going from a very chaotic, turbulent atmosphere
Hmm.
into a very, I moved to Indiana when I first moved to the
That's a move.
States, and so,
Yeah.
going from one extreme to the other, it was actually very healing for me, because going from the chaos to farmland
Hmm.
and cornfields beyond, the eye can see,
Right.
and open spaces. I mean, it was just like, and
I
quiet,
was gonna say it's
just
got to have been quiet.
quiet.
It's got to have been quiet.
It was so surreal. I
Hmm.
remember I had, it took me a little time to adjust, but once
Sure.
I did, man, it was just so healing. And I just had time and space now in my mind and my heart to start contemplating. I've always been one of those people, when you say go left, I'll go right. I've always just been that way, and
That's
I've
me
always been
too.
very, yes, and I've always been inquisitive, and I always think, what if, what would happen if, or what would life look like if? So those are the type of questions that I would ask. And then I'm so grateful I had a really open-minded mom who allowed me to research UFOs or research, alternative methods and healing and meditation. And so after learning all of that, I got interested in it, and I actually went to school for spiritual psychology here,
Mm,
and
Interesting.
then also got a lot of different healing modalities and the arts in that area, and sort of got certified, and really again used my life as the reference point. Was able to heal the scoliosis, was able to
mm,
heal the, I mean, it sounds like it may not have anything to do with prosperity, but it has everything, because the way that we treat ourselves is the way that we're seeing and experiencing prosperity. Think about that. If you are not treating yourself lovingly and kindly and taking care of yourself, you're
right.
probably experiencing some kind of lack in your prosperity. But if you're taking good care, you're probably thriving really well. So that's sort of the reason and the way that I got here.
Yeah, I was curious. One of my questions is, how did you make the transition? I mean, okay, so you came to the United States, you were able to experiment and contemplate, and you went to school, and then obviously was able to implement what you've learned. But I'm just
Yes.
the
Oh,
transit.
okay. I
So
see.
how did you
So
get from to?
yes, so I opened up a practice. I've been in practice for 10 years now, and just worked one on one with people and learning and listening. A lot of times it's just about listening and getting present and hearing the common thread, the themes that people share and talk about is very similar. Either they want prosperity, they want to heal their body, or they want relationships. Those are the three top things.
Yes.
So once I
Yes.
started understanding that and really connecting the dots, I was able to use a lot of the research and sort of the experiences that I had. And then, of course, I was also looking for books that were to help me, because financially I wasn't doing that well because of the sort of mirror that I saw. My parents were struggling.
Right.
Money was not very accessible to us. So I knew there had to be a different way. And the big turning point for me was basically understanding that money is energy. It's not this lifeless object that we can sort of like, push around or abuse or judge or misunderstand, but actually it's a living, breathing energy, and it's a part of the universe. And so when I realized that, I started to treat it as a friend rather than a foe. And
Wow.
that's when the prosperity started coming in, and I started using those principles with my clients. And then it just really opened so many doors for so many of them.
Interesting.
Being from Kansas also and growing up in a Christian household.
And near cornfields.
Yeah, yeah. I know how quiet and serene it can be, but being in a spirituality
Yeah.
field, you grew up in Lebanon. Were you Christian?
Yeah, I grew up Catholic, so
Okay,
hence
so
the nuns.
right. So you grew up Christian Catholic. You moved to the Midwest, where it's predominantly known as Christian, kind of the Bible
Yes,
Belt-ish
conservative, yeah.
area. How was it in a Christian household? Even your mother was supportive to say,
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing the spiritual journey instead of the religion church journey.
And I do come from a sort of an extended family, a very, very conservative outlook. And
Mm-hmm.
I tell you, I don't know what it is, but I said, I think the experience of what my mom and I went through at such a young age, and she
Mm-hmm.
was really young too. She was like 20 when she had me. So it was very, I was like, you know what? Life is too short. I'm not going to let other people's opinions and thoughts sort of dictate. So I've always been, and by the way, astrology and everything, I'm a Taurus, so I can be very, really, what's the word? Not stubborn, but very, I have a lot of conviction
Okay,
in
right.
the way that I experience things. And, I always have respect and honor for everyone's perspective. But I also understand that, if someone has this very close-minded approach, it's okay, it's fine for them, but it doesn't have to be mine.
Right. And I
Right.
think I think the conviction, not just of a tourist, but of just people that really believe in the spiritual journey can really be contagious to people in your household, because even people in my household, they're very open to it, they accepted it, and I think that's when we become more of a, again, the leader, not a transformational
Yes.
specialist. There we go.
Yes. And the thing that I would like to add to that is just respect. When we
Right.
respect one another and keep it simple and not preach, just be
Right.
yourself, share. And when people want to ask, hey, why are you prospering? Why are things going really well for you? Yesterday I was so humbled. I had my first book signing. It was just so full and packed, and I got to see some of these Christian, very conservative relatives be there, and they were like, "What the heck is going on? What does he do?" And it was just so cool to see sort of the new, my new family, I like to call them, my soul family, and then my family that I came into. It was just really interesting to see that coexisting together, and yeah, it's just miraculous. And I did see they were open and receptive, so I would have to say you're correct with that.
Well, you've proved it, right? I mean, it's not like
Yes.
it's like someday. I mean,
Yeah.
Yes.
you're sitting there signing a book, and you've got fans waiting for you to, sign the book.
So humbling.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was amazing. So it's really the book in action.
And you said you started about 10 years ago your practice, and I find that fascinating, because now that I'm 46 years old and thinking about going into an office and sitting down with a 19, 20-year-old, how did people, again, in the Midwest or anybody, you know feel comfortable enough and to go to yourself for wisdom and
Yeah.
enlightenment?
Well, I'll tell you, the first thing is that I did begin a lot of my work very charity-based, kind of volunteering, helping,
Hmm.
sort of building that. And I started to speak in front of, groups and audiences, and they started seeing the work in action. It's not about me, it's not about the age,
Right.
because I really think that when we are in the present moment, we are eternal
Right.
and we transcend time. And I'm sure we've all been here before.
Oh
I really
yeah.
don't think that I'm like, that young anyway.
This is it your
Um,
first rodeo?
no, I think it's probably what, the 50th or 100, I don't know. But yeah, so it's just I think it's once people lose that initial judgment, they
Mhm.
can see and feel the essence. And to me, it's all about feeling. If it feels expansive, if it feels empowering, if it feels freeing to me, I know that it's truth. If it feels sort of constricting and it feels like I'm being told what to do or being talked at, then I know it's not for me. So that's sort of the approach. I'm always looking to empower and help people to live their best life, not talk down to them.
So when you started this journey and you compiled all this experience, when did you decide to write your first book, Easy Breezy Miracle?
Well, I gotta say to you that I never thought I was going to be an author. It wasn't something that I had ever dreamed of. It actually, the seed was planted by my senior year in high school, my composition teacher. And she said, because, English was not my first language. I actually learned it in 3 months very quickly when I
Wow.
first moved here. I have this thing where, mimicking and hearing, I can do that well. Uh, so I remember her pulling me aside and her saying to me, it was like the last day of school, and she said, you have, it's not about the grammar, it's not about the, spelling and all of that, but there's something there that I want you to think about and contemplate, that maybe you can use this in some way as you grow and move through life. So that's always stuck with me. But I kind of forgot about it until 5, 6 years ago. And I started with social media. I started posting, just kind of sharing, blogging, and doing things like that. And I have a monthly energy forecast. I started in 2009. And when I first started, we had like 10 people checking it out. Now we have 200,000 each month.
Wow.
So it was
That's
one of
great.
those things that just took wildfire. And I would just sort of, I've always had this ability to connect energetically, intuitively to what's going on in the collective. And I just speak to it. And the way that I got the feedback confirmation was, when you work with clients, let's say 100 or 200 every month, then you're seeing a common thread. And so then you can sort of share what's going on that everybody's going through. So that started getting really a lot of attention, got sort of distributed in a lot of the spiritual sites and things like that. And then sort of naturally it evolved to, okay, what do I really feel people need right now? Well, I think a lot of people need some prosperity. And a lot of the prosperity books that I was reading, although they were great, they were very business oriented. There wasn't a lot of magic in it. There wasn't a lot of spirituality in it, a lot of heart. So I wanted to sort of bridge those two things and create something new that wasn't out there yet. And so that's how it became.
So, when writing this book, where did you get your knowledge besides just in your everyday practice? There had to be some spiritual wisdom, or your guides must have come into the play on this, because it did really well. It's still doing well. So, where did the vision come from for this?
I'm gonna have to say the universe. I really don't, it's not something that I've never really had mentors except my mom. I've always wanted one. I've always been very connected to nature. I've always listened to my inner dialogue and sort of meditated, prayed a lot, and just through experience. I have this thing where I would say it's interesting because Walt, you're with us today, and you said like Walt Disney. And I remember when I first came to the States was the first time I watched Disney movies, and I remember watching Mary Poppins and Dick Van Dyke and all of that, and I was just like, wow, that's really cool. And I would like to start sort of bringing some of that magic into the world in a way that's practical, very simple, accessible. And so I've always had that thing ever since I was really young, where like I said, everyone says go right, I'll go left, or vice versa. So I always like to make it fun, playful, and trial and error. I've always been my own guinea pig, and I've tried things out. And I've been I really think you have to know and feel and go through what it is before you share it with others.
Of
So that's
course.
sort of the approach that I went.
One word keeps popping through my head, and sometimes I'm a little intuitive, and the word is vessel.
Yeah, cool. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, and definitely you can see that you're a vessel for great positive information, and which the world really needs right
Thank you.
now.
Very much so.
And one thing that you said earlier when you were talking about your practice, that there was a common thread of what people are going through. And what is a common thread that people go through?
Well, one of the biggest ones is a lot of people really, especially because of society, because of the conditioning, is lack. A lot of people believe that they're lacking in some way. And so, we see it through media or whatever. If you don't do this, you're missing out. And if you're not doing that, and we all fall into that every now and then. But the truth is, lack is not who we are. Lack is just an experience the mind creates because it wants to keep itself safe and protected. That's it. It's a defense mechanism. So when we start to identify and know what lack really is, then we no longer need to buy into it. We actually see, okay, who am I outside of this energy that I'm experiencing? I am this vast, infinite, universal being. I'm a spiritual being having a physical experience, not the other way around. And so once that sort of awareness starts to kick in and come in, then you no longer need to resist the mind when it starts to go into lack. Because that's the other thing, especially in self-help and spirituality. A lot of the teachings sort of tell you, well, you need to transcend the mind. You have to get rid of the ego.
Right.
And what's the mind going to do when it hears that? It's going to, heck no, you're not going to transcend me.
exactly.
I'm going to resist you.
Right.
So
Exactly.
then when we can accept it and love it and thank it and say, you know what, thank you for trying to protect me. I love you so much, but let's try something different. This is not really working, this lack thing. Let's try something different.
I think a lot of us have been ingrained that if I earn $10, it's at the expense of somebody else, as opposed to the fact that everybody can have $10, or you can add as many zeros after as you want. That it's
Yes.
always at the expense of something else, which means there is a finite amount of something, when in fact that's not the case. But that's just how I think a lot of society ingrains and trains us.
Yes. Well,
And
it's
thereby,
safe, right?
well,
It's safe.
yeah, it's safe, but I think it's just, money doesn't grow on trees kind of thing.
But does it? You see what I'm saying? It's really important to think, when those thoughts come into our mind, question it. So when your mind's saying money doesn't grow on trees, or there's not enough for everyone, say, how does it serve me to have that thought? Is that serving me? Is it doing something for me? Because the mind only goes into thoughts that feel comfortable or familiar to it.
Well, one thing I would say, I have another show. It's called Dr. Judy WTF, which is What the Freud. And one of the things I've done research on is take that lack or an issue and make it in terms of a question with a why in front of it. Because once you
yes.
put a why in front of it, why do I have lack? Then it kind of, you break it down, and you're able to get a little more around it, and then your brain obviously has to answer that question.
I love that.
As
That's
opposed
so amazing.
to I don't have anything, and you look around and everything validates what you're doing in terms of that belief, and we call it our core belief in our show. But then if you
That's
put why in front of it, then it's able to be broken down, and all of a
yes.
sudden it's not as scary. And sometimes like, for example, to go something a little more closer, maybe is like weight. I can't lose 30 pounds. It's like, well, gosh, you're nuts. You got rocks in your head and in other parts of your body. But if you say, well, why can't I lose 30 pounds, right? And then your mind is starting to answer
You
the
have to
question.
answer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, maybe if I start working out, maybe if I eat less, maybe if I don't put cheese in the hamburger, simple things like
That's
that.
powerful.
It will obviously have an impact.
That's so powerful. And I want to also add to that a little bit, where
Please.
why not also do it the other way around? Why is it so easy for me to prosper?
Oh,
Why is it so easy for
see,
me to bring in
there's the question.
so many more amazing people who want to support me and help me, and I want to support them? Just really allowing that why to go both ways. I love that.
Exactly.
And I know, because Eddie, who is usually here, he's a psychic, but he's a psychic.
Oh, you are?
No, Eddie.
Eddie, the other co-host of the
Oh,
show.
okay.
Eddie
But
Connor.
one thing about Eddie I know is, Eddie, he's from the South, and he kind of, has his accent, and he's always kind of making fun of himself a little bit. But when he's in his intuitive mode, he's almost like a completely different person.
Yes.
Are you like that? When you're just Emmanuel, sitting on the couch, and then when you're going into your practice, do you kind of transform yourself into like another spirit, another being?
What I call it is just moving out of the way.
Oh, okay.
So once you move out of the way, so even before we started, I do a quick, universe, help me just be a vessel, an instrument of the divine, and move me out of my head and into my heart. So sometimes I don't even know what I'm saying. It just comes out, and I'm so grateful. So I wouldn't say I'm being another being or spirit, but I am moving out of my mind and into my heart, where I'm open and available.
There's that vessel thing.
That's right.
You are a psychic, Walt.
Yes, you are a psychic. All right, so what we're going to do, we're going to take just a 15-second break. It's just one of our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the new book that was just released, Easy Breezy Prosperity, and we're talking to Emmanuel Dagher. He is an author, transformational specialist.
Here in the Los Angeles area.
Yeah, he lives here in Los Angeles, and I'm sure that's not limiting you to having a reading or having a session with him. So we'll be right back. This is Truth Be Told. I'm Tony Sweet.
And I'm Walt Lusk.
And we're going to be right back. We hope you're enjoying today's show, which is sponsored by Earth Friendly Products. For over 40 years, Earth Friendly Products have brought you the greenest home merchandise for all your family needs. Learn more at ecos.com. That's ecos.com. Now back to the show. All right. Well, welcome back. This is Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie, but Walt Lusk is here today.
Yeah, I'm Walt Lusk. Thanks for tuning in and viewing. And we're having an amazing conversation today about abundance and energy.
And we have Emmanuel Dagher on with us today. He is in the Los Angeles area, but he just released a book called Easy Breezy Prosperity. It is flying off the bookshelves, and we hope that you guys go out and pick it up. You can pick it up online, or I'm sure even in maybe some local bookstores. But
He's trying to get on the New York Times
he's
bestseller
going
list.
to.
Yeah,
He's going
it's
to.
inevitable.
He's going to. So, Emmanuel, thank you so much for being here. And we talked about your first book in the first half hour of this show. And I want to talk about your latest book. Sometimes, authors, they just put a book together, they put it out there, and then that's all they do. But apparently you had more information to share with people. So talk about the latest book that's out there right now.
Well, I just want to first say that I'm having so much fun with the both of you. It's awesome. I'm having a really good time. So
Likewise,
thank you
thank
for
you.
that. So the new book, Easy Breezy Prosperity, you can pick it up at Barnes and Nobles or any local bookstore or Amazon. And this book is the book that I was actually searching for when it came to creating greater wealth and prosperity. I was, I've read a lot of those books, Think and Grow Rich and things like that,
Right.
and I loved the principles. But I felt like there needed to be something a little bit more modern, more accessible to today's age, and in a way that was very simple, but very heart-centered. It wasn't just businessy, although there's a few principles in there about that, but I wanted it to be very heart and then spirit. So through working with thousands of amazing clients and through just trial and error, speaking in front of groups, social media, believe it or not, just seeing, understanding, asking questions to the audience, we were able to find the best of the best processes to help people really thrive.
So when we say abundance and when we say prosperity, majority of the people are going to think money.
Mm-hmm.
But that can be so much more in someone's life. So can you
Yes.
explain a little bit more about what prosperity is to you?
Okay, so there's, two sort of ideas around prosperity that I've come to realize. The first one is that, the most prosperous people are the ones that know who they are. They know who they are outside of this matrix. They know who they are outside of the illusion. They know that there's something greater. Like the both of you, ever since you were young, you knew that there was something more. So that's sort of the beginning. Abundance is to know who you are, to know that you are part of the universe. Therefore, you are the universe and you've never been lacking in any way. Your spirit is whole. It's complete. Does that feel true to both of you?
Oh, totally.
And there
yes.
is no spoon.
Right? So, yeah, so just really understanding who you are. So, even though the mind wants to go to money, think about it in the terms of who am I in correlation to this word prosperity. Is it me? Is it outside of me? Is it something that is hard to get? Is it easy? Then the other thing is when it does come to prosperity, understanding what money means. A lot of us, we think that money is this plastic credit card or paper cash or whatnot, but it's actually evolving. A lot of us are seeing how a lot of that is becoming obsolete. So what if money, and I talked a little bit about this earlier, what if money was a living, breathing energy? What if it's this part of the universe and it's a part of the experience? And just like how we have a purpose, it has a purpose.
Right.
So, our purpose, what is our purpose? If we want to just simplify it, it's to be happy. That's our only purpose in life. When you align with what makes you happy and not do what you think others think you should do,
Right.
and that, because all that stuff will start getting in your head and confusing you and blocking you. But when you are truly living your joy, you are on purpose. So, what if money has that same purpose? And its purpose is simply to be the embodiment of giving and receiving. And what are we giving and receiving? Energy.
Right.
Its purpose is to give and receive energy, give and receive love. So back in the day, it used to be, I'm going to give my sheep for your corn. Now it's, I'm going to give, my whatever form of money for this product. So the thing about it is to understand it's not about the actual object, it's about what it represents. And if we can see that, then we can give it humanity, we can give it dignity, and honor and respect instead of abusing it and having all these ideas that I can't have it. Wars are fought for it. All
Mm-hmm.
these things that a lot of spiritual people sometimes tend to go into, and then they suffer. They don't have money, and then they get really angry and jaded. We don't need that. We don't need that anymore. We can let that go. It's a time where we can fully have best of both worlds.
And I know in your book, and I haven't finished yet, but I know in your book you give some exercises and 28-day plan. But I want to start with meditations, and I want to know for myself, and this could be an excuse, but I was diagnosed with ADD. I've tried to set and quiet my mind. It just doesn't seem to work. I have to
Yeah.
find other outlets to do that. But let's talk about meditation first. How important it is to do on a daily basis or weekly basis, or what is it a meditation
Regular basis.
or just a regular basis?
However,
Well,
that's
Yeah.
I'll tell you, my friend, I'm the same way. I've always had sort of this way of like, when they're like,
Yeah,
quiet your
there's no
mind. I'm
way.
like, what are you talking about?
I couldn't agree with you more.
So
Yeah.
for me, it's just one little simple thing that I do, and I call it my meditation, is I'll set my alarm on my phone. I'll put a song that I like. One of my favorite songs that my grandma and I had, we shared, was "I Just Called to Say I Love You" by Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
And when that goes off 2, 3 times a day, I'll just get into my five senses. Where am I? What do I hear? What do I see? What do I taste? What do I touch and smell? Just getting fully in the present, looking at the textures, the colors, just for like 30 seconds. Just fully in that, and then go on about your day. What that's going to do is it's going to create a little opening, like a little disruption. A lot of times when we're thinking about work, we're doing this, we're doing that, we're very much going on autopilot. So what that does is it creates an opening. And then the more you do that, the more you start creating those little time where you can have that, then you're going to start getting higher thoughts, higher insights, higher wisdom to help support you. Maybe I should call this person, and this is going to be a good connection to, have this new business startup. Whatever it is, it's going to create new space for your mind to prosper.
And I love that you say that, because there's so many people in the self-help, the new age genre that really want to almost force meditation on people that you're like, I just can't do it. And so I'm glad you're giving people an opportunity to give them a reason to seek different meditation practices.
Yeah, because we are bombarded by stuff all the time.
Oh yeah, all the time.
I remember years ago I went to Magic Mountain, an amusement park around here, and I remember standing in line, and every 10 feet there was a a screen blaring something that was visual and noisy, and I'm thinking, I don't need this much stimulation, and everybody's
Right.
just jammed. Now we're looking at our cell phones. We got to be stimulated all the time.
Yes, I totally agree. And another thing that I love to do is it's very simple, is just be in nature for like a few minutes. Just take your shoes off, put your feet in the grass. I like to sit under a tree and just sort of read or do something like that. That's very meditative. Actually, one of the things that you would not conventionally think is very meditation oriented is laughing. So if you are watching YouTube videos after work, you've had a stressful day, you're watching hilarious videos on YouTube, laughing your, what off, crying, whatever, and that's very healing. That's very therapeutic, and it creates again this sense of opening because you're not in that autopilot anymore.
So watching all those cat videos really can help.
Yeah, of course. Yes.
Well, okay, meditation. Then you had also in your book about rituals. Could you give some examples
Yeah.
of what rituals are?
Okay, so there's a few. So one of the things that I started doing about 8 years ago now is mantras. Mantras are really powerful, and they're not to be mistaken with affirmations. I think they're both great, but mantras are actually sacred, repetitive sounds and words and energies that actually go thousands of years back. And the reason why mantras are so powerful is because you have thousands, maybe millions of people who have come before you who have worked with those same exact mantras. So there's prosperity mantras, there's mantras around healing, there's mantras around clearing blocks and letting go of karmic things or whatever. And so I've created sort of a combination of the ones that have really worked for me. And instantly, when you start doing these, you are not starting from scratch.
Oh
You have
my.
now, the way that I like to imagine it is, I'll close my eyes for a second, and I'll imagine like a huge stadium or even bigger of an audience who is sort of holding the space for me to step into these same rituals that they did before me, these mantras. And it gave me such a sense of, wow, okay, this is amazing. And once you start connecting with them, you try it for the 28 days, because I have the 28-day program in
Are
there.
those mantras in your book?
Yes, they are.
Oh
They're
my
all
goodness.
listed in
Oh,
there.
got to get it,
And
folks.
they are, yes, they're all in there. And I even spell them out to make sure that you say them correctly and
Oh
everything. But
wow.
they're so
Okay, cool.
powerful. And there's the money one, there's the prosperity. I mean, there's so many different ones in there.
And
Interesting. So would you say these mantras, like you put them on like 3x5 cards and say them during the day, or do it
I
once a
actually,
day,
yeah,
or
you can. Eventually, I memorized them, so I'll
of
do them in the
course,
shower.
right?
I'll do them in the
But
shower while
but
I'm
but many
driving.
times a day.
Yeah, just throughout.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
it's so interesting. I don't like to put rules or anything.
Well, and
You
just
can do them 10 times, you can do them 100 times. But what happens is your subconscious will start to do them. I'll be like, just driving, and all of a sudden I'm just like, Om Shrim. I mean, it's just so funny.
and I was an All American athlete in college, and growing up I was always in sports and stuff like that. And I know you have in your book also exercises, and I know how important exercises are as a fitness instructor, and when I was, like I said,
you're
an
a trainer.
athlete. I was a trainer for 12 years.
Yeah.
So I know how important it is for your body. But exercises in your book,
For your mind.
what are they helping us increase?
Well, I gotta tell you, movement is so spiritual. It's
Yeah, it
so
is. It
healing.
is.
And a lot of times, actually, I used to not like to work out and exercise. I was like, just so painful for me to go. Why? Why? But then for me, the switch happened when I realized and started to honor it as a spiritual part of my day. Because when you're exercising, you're actually moving stagnant energy. You are an energetic being. You're not this physical density. That's not, it may look like that, but at your cellular level, your energy. So when you can move the energy through your body, and we've heard it, a body in motion tends to stay in motion,
It's
and
true.
you're going to be healthy for a long time. But if you're stagnant, especially now, everyone's on their computer or on their phones, they're literally, getting sick because they're not moving. So it's the same thing with the state of mind. If we are moving our body, and I have a few practices in there like the gratitude dance, and things that really help us sort of combine different parts of spiritual and sort of, I like to call them prosperity magnets, and use them with movement, you're actually going to multiply and magnify
Oh,
the
wow.
effect of it.
Very impressive.
Well, I have to say, I'm sold. I mean,
You've got the book. I'm jealous.
I know,
And it's
but
fun. It's so easy,
yeah.
and it's so fun. That's the thing.
Well, it makes sense, and now I know
Absolutely, it does.
why people came to you at
Oh,
a younger
yeah,
age,
this is
because
amazing.
you've really been guided. I don't know if, like you said, Eddie talks about guides, and most of the people we talk about guides. I think there's been a lot of guides in the universe that's really stepped in and given you much of an opportunity to help others. And one thing I want to talk about because we have about 8 minutes left, but one thing I want to talk about is seeking out opportunities. I see this where it says seeking out opportunities to be a service through your time, energy, gifts, and abilities. And I want to talk about that with you, because I think there's opportunities always around you, where so
Yes.
many people they always look forward, they're always looking to the future, but they don't see the opportunities that are passing to the side of them, behind them, everywhere
In the present.
in the present. So tell me your thought on the seeking of an opportunity.
So, one of the greatest things that I've tapped into, and I've studied it, and we can see the literal confirmation all around the world through people like Oprah or Richard Branson, or,
Right.
People who are really practicing generosity. The energy of generosity and service is so powerful. And, sometimes the mind, when it first thinks of generosity, it thinks it's giving something up. and it thinks that, oh, I have, I'm going to be giving something away and I'm not going to get anything in return. But the truth is, you're going to get so much, so many things, and it may not even feel like it's directly related to your generosity, but the universe is a generous universe, and it loves the spirit of generosity. So when we can start practicing even it doesn't have to be financially, it can be, again, your time, your energy, your support. One thing that's so important to me is to support my colleagues. I know you were saying earlier, oh, I hope you'll share, this show on my, I was like, of course. I mean, why not? And even if I wasn't on the show, now that we're friends, I would still do it. So
That's awesome.
these things are so important to me because it shows that we are trusting. We are trusting that there's this higher energy within us that is fully doing what it needs to do. And we don't have to always be in control. We don't always have to think and be like, oh, it has to be like this, like that. We can open ourselves up. So generosity, service through volunteering. One of my favorite things, I'm a big advocate to helping kids. It's really important to me. And my mom and I actually go back often to Lebanon, and we do some work with the Syrian refugees right now.
Oh my.
And we teach them consciousness, meditation, prayer, yoga. I mean, a lot of different things. And who knows, one of those kids could end up being an amazing, humanitarian one day.
Right,
So
right.
there's just this idea of giving back. And when we realize that you're not losing anything when you give, but you're actually gaining so much more, then I think more people will be inclined to do it.
I had a pastor years ago that said, you don't get to give, get to give. You give to get.
Wow.
So
that's
in other
good.
words, it's a complete paradigm shift. Everybody's expecting, well, I'll give when I have enough. Well,
Right.
that's getting to give, right? And it
Yes.
doesn't work that way. You have to just go out and give, and it'll come back. So it's
But-
give to get.
But that said, where do we get when we give? Doesn't mean we always have to expect
No.
to get
No.
back.
No.
And I think that's where a lot of people out there, they're like, well, I
Yes.
gave $10 and I heard that I'm supposed to be 100-fold and I'm supposed to get back, and it's like, no, you can't think that way. And I
You just
think-
give,
yeah.
and
Yes.
it's going to come back in many other different ways.
yes.
But it is shaken down, pressed, and
Right.
abundant.
Yeah, it is. And it could be through so many different channels that, as long as you're open. I think the thing here is about understanding when you're giving, just be open to the surprises that the universe is going to bless you with. Just be open. It doesn't have to be coming directly from this organization that you
No.
tithe to.
Because the one thing I've learned is the universe hates a vacuum.
Yes.
And I hate to vacuum.
Don't we
so
all?
We're good.
They're too loud.
Yeah. Well, easy breezy prosperity: the 5 foundations for a more joyful, abundant life. And I love the title.
You make it sound so easy.
Easy,
Right?
breezy. And where did you come up with the title? Because that's
Yeah,
genius.
it's cool.
I was actually in Kauai, on the island of Kauai, and I just
Where
saw
else?
such.
Yeah.
I know, right? And I thought, I was on the northern shore,
shore.
and I was just like, wow, these people have such an easy life. Why not? Why not? And that's sort of where it started coming in. Easy breezy, and then that's sort of how it grew.
Well, I love it. And so, are you going to be speaking anywhere, or?
Yes, so I will be speaking. There's 2 things coming up. So in February, on February 20th, I'm doing an event at the Beverly Garland in North Hollywood, and it's at it'll be on my website. And then as well, I'll be speaking at the United Nations on April 15th.
Wow, tell us about that. What's that going to be talking about?
I know, that's so crazy. It just it's kind of a surreal thing for me, and I think I will talk a little bit about some of the things that I went through as a child and never really imagining that was going to happen. But really, it's so humbling to be able to speak about peace and to speak about a new way for humanity. So that's sort of the whole intention of the talk. And actually, I'm going to do a little healing work as well.
I love how he just made it nonchalant, like, I'm just going to be at the UN. I'm not going to be. I've been like, I'm going to be at the UN. Yes. Well, we so appreciate you being here. This has been so great. And everybody, I want you to go to his website, Emmanuel Dagher, and that's DAGHER.com, and pick up his book at pretty much Amazon. Tell us some other places that people can pick it up at.
Yeah, I actually created a direct website, so you can go to easybreezyprosperity.com, and it'll show all of the different retail outlets for that.
Oh, great.
And we've got Books a Million. We have all those different things.
Do you have any more book signings?
Oh, yeah.
I will have one coming up. I don't have the date set, but I will have one as well in New York when
New
I'm
York.
at the
Okay.
UN. Yep.
Well, of course.
And you're definitely please come back and join us.
Oh,
in
thank
studio.
you.
Most
Such
definitely.
a pleasure. You guys
Yes.
are amazing. Thank
Oh,
you for
thank
what
you
you're
so
doing
much.
for humanity. Thank you.
Oh, not our pleasure.
It's totally
just,
our pleasure.
We're a vessel to let people like you. No, just kidding. All right. Well, we are so happy you're here, and we hope you guys enjoyed the show. If you missed the show, please watch it on our YouTube channel. That's Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie. Definitely subscribe. Watch all of our other shows. But now you can
You listen to us on iTunes,
iHeartRadio,
and Stitcher.
Yeah, Stitcher.
And Speaker, too.
Spreaker.
Yeah.
Not speaker. Spreaker.
Oh, okay, them too.
All right. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And we'll definitely keep in touch, and we hope that you come back soon. All right, this is Tony Sweet.
And I'm Walt Lusk.
And you're listening to Truth Be Told with Tony and Eddie right here on Universal Broadcasting Network. I'll be right back.